I'm Luis Scott, managing partner of Bader Scott Injury Lawyers, one of the fastest growing law firms in the country, and I'm also the co-founder of 8-Figure Firm Consulting. I've successfully built multiple companies by focusing on leadership, operations, and culture. Using these principles, my companies have generated close to $100 million in revenue. But before any of this success, I started my legal career as a receptionist, and I worked my way up to becoming managing partner. In each episode of this podcast, I sit down with leaders and entrepreneurs who have had the guts to step out on their own and the courage to face adversity. They share with us their tips for achievement, the challenges they have faced, and the glory of success. I welcome you to the Guts and Glory Show. All right, Luis Scott here, host of the Guts and Glory Show. I feature top leaders who share the obstacles and challenges of leadership, the guts it takes to succeed, and the glory of success. Today, you will hear another inspiring interview from Corey Geary, a marketing extraordinaire who is changing the way law firms market using a signature customer journey nowhere seen in the legal space. But before we get started, I want to say our sponsor message is brought to you by 8-Figure Firm Consulting. At 8-Figure Firm, we help law firms take their business from 7 figures to 8 figures by letting them do the things they love and focusing away from the things that they hate. And I remember, when I started my career, Corey, I didn't know how to build a firm. I didn't know what I was supposed to do. I didn't know what next steps I needed to take. And honestly, I tell people it took me until I was like 34, 35 years old to really learn how to build a firm. And so what I love about 8-Figure Firm is that they can show you how to develop a business that works for you instead of you working for it. So if you want more information and you want to turn your law firm into a law business, go to 8figurefirm.com. Now, today I have the pleasure of introducing Corey Geary, Marketing Director of Bader Scott Injury Lawyers and Marketing Consultant for 8-Figure Firm Consulting. In this capacity, he oversees a multi-7-figure marketing budget and has helped craft the legal industry's signature customer journey. Corey, welcome to the Guts and Glory Show.
Hey, Luis. Thank you for having me.
So I want to start off by asking you the question that everybody is going to want to know once they look you up, and that is, how is your dog more famous than you?
It's a good question. I think of myself as a marketing expert, but I think my wife has found the true gem, which is puppies sell more than anything. So we've had Odie for a while, and he has a very loyal fan base of other pugs and other dogs and followers. So I'm not sure how he's outgrowing, but I imagine his success will continue to grow. So I did notice that he has thousands of followers on Instagram. What's his Instagram handle? His Instagram name is at Odie the Puggy. So give him all the clout.
Now does he do tricks, or is this just like a fun, cute, loving little dog situation here?
The only tricks he does is just entice us to give him extra treats. I don't know if there's any other plans. His master plan's working out really well.
So as a marketing expert, would you recommend that I get a dog? If so, what kind of dog sells the best?
Well, absolutely. For the first question. And I'm a little biased, so I would go pug all day. But yeah, any small dog that you can put in your lap is going to be the best win.
So my wife is a big fan of labs. We just decided to become lab owners. So this is brand new information, hearing it for the first time ever on the Guts and Glory Show. So we'll be lab owners sometime in December. So we're excited. So just look forward to that. On social media, you're going to see a lot more dog action from me. So that maybe that'll help my Instagram and so forth. As we get started, tell us a little bit more about you, your background, your journey, and how did you become who you are? I mean, if people are watching this video, they're going to see a very, very young person leading essentially a multi 8-figure business in the marketing department. Tell us about how you got to where you are.
Yeah, well, I think it's important to kind of go back towards even my childhood, not to bring you back to the whole history, but I have always loved and been obsessed with design and the way things feel. My parents had the old Nokia phones and the touchscreen Blackberries and all those. And I used to always think they were so impressive. But when I was a kid, it's going to sound crazy, the iPhone came out. And that was one of the first times I'd ever touched just world-class technology. And I became basically engulfed with the love of Apple. So I think the design and the branding just struck me so young that I found something that really felt good. And I think the feeling good marketing is something that's always just been a passion for me. So I will definitely allude to Apple a ton of times during the podcast probably, but I fell in love with typography and colors and the feeling of marketing versus just, strict messaging and stuff like that. So I think as a kid, I loved that. And, I went to a junior college, which definitely helped me catapult myself in my intention to learn. So I learned a ton at my junior college and then went to University of Georgia where I studied business, and I was just able to meet so many incredible young driven business leaders that will, be really incredible leaders in the future. So I think the combination of my love for marketing, this situation of going to junior college helped me push my learning, and then just seeing others who have this drive to succeed have pushed me that way.
It's interesting because you talk about this passion that you developed at a very young age. And a lot of times I was a victim of this because when I was young, I thought the only people who had passion were artists, right? Celebrities, actors, singers, and athletes, because it's apparent that they have this. But you had a passion for something that's not as apparent. It was not something, you weren't throwing a 90-mile-an-hour fastball. You weren't running through, defensive linemen as a running back, or you weren't singing like some of these professional singers. Tell the audience a little bit more about passion and how you can actually harness a passion that's not as readily apparent, like something that you had, which was a love for technology, a love for colors and things like that.
Yeah, I think to play with that, I played soccer my entire life growing up. So I was always following teams, and you have this team loyalty, this, who are the players, how are they doing, are they injured? And I just fell in love with sports, and I still love sports this day. But I think a lot of those little pieces coming together helped me realize that, I have to be intentional with my time. And even as a kid, I didn't realize I was doing it looking back on it, but I spent a lot of time in the backyard juggling a soccer ball. I spent a lot of time after practice by myself, shooting on the goal and running around the field, probably like a mad kid. But I spent a lot of time being intentional with myself and what I wanted to do. And I think that, coupled with the idea that I loved the way things looked in field marketing, I think just kind of boosted me as a kid. And I believe in the 10,000-hour rule a ton. So I think I was exposed to a lot of really great brands as a kid. And in an honest standpoint, the digital age struck during my childhood, the childhood in my teenage years. So I was exposed to more brands and more pressing advertising probably than any other generation up until probably now. So I think that it was always in my face, something that I just kind of enjoyed. And then I studied it a ton, especially when I went through college. I figured out exactly what I wanted to do. I knew that marketing was my realm. So I spent as much time possible after school learning, reading. I watch a lot of videos on marketing. I love abstract marketing and minimalism. So I think there's a lot of things that you can do, but the biggest thing is you have to be intentional with your time, and whatever you want to do, you have to spend time doing that. And it's just what I love to do.
Absolutely. Now, one of the things that I hear a lot, especially from young people in their early 20s, even up to their late 20s, is they don't know what they're passionate about. They don't know what drives them. They get up every day. They're not excited about going to work. They're not excited about what they do. But you develop this passion from a very young age. What advice would you give to someone who is in that position, who hasn't developed their passion and doesn't have like this innate desire to do something? Like, what would you tell them?
Yeah, that's tough, because I feel like I have a lot of friends who were in similar situations as myself. I've had a lot of friends who are still trying to figure out what they want to do. I think it just comes down to who you are naturally. And I had read something the other day actually about dating, and people, when they date each other, to not put on any kind of persona, to truly talk about who you are, what you like. If you like Star Wars, like talk about Star Wars. Because if you find somebody else who likes Star Wars as well, like it's going to be an instant connection. So like, why put on this persona? And for me, I just kind of found this hint of love for marketing young, and it's just something I really enjoyed. I loved creating logos. I love creating fake businesses. I've tried creating thousands of businesses because I love the marketing field and branding. But my biggest advice would be to just find out what you naturally just enjoy doing. I've asked the question many times, what would you do if you could do anything in the world? And tons of people say, oh, I'd be a travel agent, or I'd be a tour guide in the Maldives or something. I guess we'd all love that. Other than being a travel guide, or other than being a tour guide, or somebody who can just travel and do whatever they want, what would you actually enjoy doing? And many people say, I'd be a travel blogger or a photographer. Yeah, those are things that you can do, but like, what would you do? And like, if you keep questioning yourself and challenging your your status quo, what you would really do, I think you'd end up finding exactly what you love versus finding a job that you're good at that will sustain for the time being. Like, you can find what you actually love to do by just continuing to ask yourself and drive the question.
You know, it's interesting because you just went through an exercise, and I don't know if people really heard it, if they're not familiar with that exercise, which is to just go one level deeper, one level deeper. And I think that we shy away from like that self-discovery, and because we don't want to ask ourselves that one level deeper question. And I think that that's so important to find your passion, is to just ask yourself that one level deeper question. Like, why do I want to do this? And how is that going to further my goals and myself? Now, as you develop your passion, one of the things that you have developed in that time period is what we've titled the signature customer journey. I've never heard of it. I've never seen any law firm use it. It's something that is absolutely foreign to law firm owners. And so even though I'm going to focus on law firm owners, this is really applicable to all businesses, and we'll talk about this in a second. But the signature customer journey, where did this idea come from? And like, how did you develop this?
Yeah, so for starters, I can't take complete credit for it because the customer journey is something that has been developing over, I would say, the last few years heavily. 2020, I would say, is probably the first year where you can actually physically see majority of companies starting to push the customer journey. But actually in college, I became aware of it when Delta and Coca-Cola would come to the school at UGA, Georgia, and they would basically do like these seminars, they would do these meet and greets, and I really felt that they were putting me as a student on my own journey as a potential employee. And I think I felt that they were following up with me, and it was all automated, but it felt very personal and very cohesive across the brand. So I really wanted to work for Delta. I really wanted to work for Coca-Cola. I found a love for those brands. And I think that spoke to me as a marketer wanting to do that. But again, I kind of went deeper into the curiosity of what these customer journeys actually were. And I always make jokes about, like, when you see something on sale, I'm like, so I tell my wife, well, it says it's on sale, it's 50% off, but they knew it was going to sell for this price, right? Like, it wasn't $100 originally. It was originally $50, and they're telling you it's on sale at $50. So they're winning. And I always joke when I see email marketing or customer journey emails that, I can see kind of right through it, and I see the value in it. But I think I worked at Salesforce for 2 years, which gave me a lot of exposure to a lot of small, medium-sized businesses who are on the cusp of really accomplishing a customer journey and building something out that's really relationship-based. But the biggest thing that I saw over the course of my time there, even with a few law firms, is that, when you go into marketing, a lot of marketing pieces are siloed, and you have a lot of social media as its own world, email marketing is its own world, and all these different pieces of marketing are truly their own projects. And that's the biggest misconception in marketing. And I think as the customer journey has become more prevalent across the industry, across all industries, more people are catching on to the fact that, hey, all these siloed pieces of marketing is actually meant to be a cohesive experience and bring somebody across this journey of, how do I get from start to finish, all while building a relationship. So I think I've definitely seen it elsewhere. I think I found the biggest gap in the law industry, which is a little older in traditions with marketing and things that have stuck for a while. A lot of marketing stuck in the 90s in a sense. So I found a huge opportunity there. And I think that I decided to say, you know what, this legal industry has a lot of opportunity for potential, and they need this. So yeah, it kind of evolved over time.
I absolutely agree. And, maybe you can expand on how this customer journey is actually different than what you see right now in the marketplace, because you're absolutely right. Being in the legal industry for 20 years, I can tell you, we are late to everything. We are late to marketing. We're late to the game. We're late to hiring. Many law firm owners don't even treat law firms as businesses. They treat them as law practices, which is one of the reasons that 8-Figure Firm, we help people turn from law practice to law business. And you're part of the marketing consulting arm of 8-Figure Firm. How is this customer journey really different than what you see today in the legal market space?
Well, I think the best analogy is probably when you go into a TJ Maxx or some kind of shopping store, you're looking for clothes. The best analogy is when people approach you and say, do you need help, or can I help you with this? They're offering their help and their advice, but in reality, they're trying to sell you, right? Like, they're trying to make sure that you purchase your clothes. The same thing happens at car dealerships. It's more than a a get for them than a give. They're not really there to give
Right.
you the experience. They're just there to get your money. And I think the legal industry, while it's a little bit older in a sense, it's stuck to that model that really fit in the 90s, which is, hey, come work with us. We can win money. We can work, we can win money. And I think that message is, while it's starting to become a little more cheesier on people, it worked for a long time. But now humans are becoming smarter. I think we're all becoming a little bit more aware with marketing, and that mentality that you have to always get something as a business, you always have to get something, is fading. It's turning into what can I give the customer? If I can continue to give, then I'll end up receiving and getting. And I think as consumers, we're becoming smarter. We have more resources at our hands.
Mm-hmm.
We can use Google reviews and Yelp and people's past experiences. So I think that we are becoming more of an intelligent consumer, and we're expecting
Mm-hmm.
relationships. So the biggest difference for me is the entire industry seems very transactional, and that is a fading art of becoming transactional. We don't want to be a transactional business. We want to be a relationship business, because relationships bring more transactions than one. So thinking past that
Yeah.
first layer.
I absolutely agree with that. One of the things I think you pointed out was the relational nature of our environment, really the culture right now. We have a young person in our firm who's in their early 20s, and they talked about how their generation, they don't go shop at the mall, at mall stores. They go shop at boutiques. They shop online. They shop where they have a sense of relationship with the person. And those are the consumers of tomorrow. And as law firms, we have to adapt to that instead of trying to make them come into our box. We have to expand the box and really be about the relationship. Now, this doesn't just apply to law firms, right? It applies to every type of business. What are some key points of the signature customer journey that applies to all businesses outside of, maybe just the relationship and so forth, building relationships? How can other people use this in their business?
Well, I think I think one thing is to try and be agile, and you can kind of see, based like the last question you just asked me. If you go into a grocery store today, you will start to see that delis have become more of an experience, and bakeries have
Mm-hmm.
become more of an experience, and even when you go to the butcher, as a consumer today, like I would much rather go to a butcher shop and get meat, but I know the most option that's available is to go to Kroger or Publix and get meat from the butcher, but they're trying to make that personal experience. But I think the most common thing that people can do is to sit back, take a step back from your current client journey, because you think you may have it figured out, and there are areas that are struggles. Like social media is always going to be a struggle for a lot of people. Email marketing is very difficult, and you come back in like SEO and a lot of the higher level things, you have to take a step back and then start saying, okay, what do I want my client journey to be? If I was a client, how would I experience it? And that in my mind is the first step. And the first thing that somebody can do is say, okay, if I were the customer, how would I currently experience the brand? And I think that alone will set you up for success, and start to pick apart where you can actually start.
You almost have to go and hire another firm just to see how they make you feel, to determine where it feels bad. It's like if I was, it's one thing to say, I want to get into the shoes of the customer. It's another thing to be the customer and the client.
That's right.
And as a client of a firm in a different capacity than what our firm does, I remember that experience and not feeling like it was a great journey. I remember feeling tired. I remember feeling, scared and nervous. And a lot of law firms are just running that way. They just think if you have a sign that people are going to come and that you're going to make money, and that's not the way it works. You really have to cater to the client, especially in this environment. Now, on the Guts and Glory show, we talk a lot about success, right? And so this is obviously a successful part of your life and your journey as a marketer. But there's a lot of pitfalls, right? And I think people are always, surprised when they hear about the pitfalls of becoming a successful person. In your life, what was the gutsiest thing you ever had to do? And then what did you learn from that?
Well, 2 years out of college, I was working at the number one company I work for in America, Salesforce. And I think that experience helped me kind of make a decision about where I wanted to be in my life. I could take the long path of climbing the corporate ladder at a really great brand, and I would probably have been really successful in the sales side. I loved consulting people in the marketing side of the business. But the gutsiest thing I did was leaving there to join the law firm Bader Scott. I think for me, I had a really cush setup. I had a really great salary. I had a really great commission check coming through, but I wasn't really being fulfilled with what I was doing. And I think the biggest thing was trying to find where I align with my passions.
Mm-hmm.
And I took the risk by pitching during my interview, pitching basically transforming the entire industry, trying to flip the entire legal industry on its head and saying, hey, this is how things have been done. And if you gave me the opportunity to work here, I would do this. I would turn everything upside down and say, this is the standard. This is how it's done, and try and scale the business. So it was super risky. I'll always remember when I finally told people at my job that I was leaving to go work at a law firm, they were like, oh, that's awesome. Like, congrats. And in reality, I know they were like, this dude's an idiot. Like, what is he doing? He has he's failed. He's not pursuing an option at the best company to work for in the world. But it's not about working for someone else. And I wanted to work for myself. And I feel like I have a bigger opportunity to make bigger impact at where I'm currently at. And I can already see the transformation. So it's very fulfilling, but very, very gutsy. My wife and I have talked about that many times, how transformative that decision was.
It's funny because there's a lot of nuggets of gold in what you just said. There are people listening to this right now, and they're asking themselves, are they in the right place? Are they doing what they should be doing in life? And there's really no reward without that risk. So it's so important that you take that risk. Now, as it relates to, making that pitch, because I remember when you came in, you did this incredible presentation about the customer journey and how would you change it, literally on its head. What did you take from just going through that experience, advice that you could give to someone who is not happy in their current job, or maybe, you were happy, right? You were happy in your previous job, but is not happy or is happy and wants to do something different. What would you tell them now that you've gone through that experience and achieved something of great significance?
Well, I think for starters, I learned a lot about myself during the interview, that if I really want to hold the keys to my success and my future, I have to take them. And, I could have stayed at Salesforce and rode that wave for a long time, or the previous company I worked for as well. Those were great companies to work for, and I could have rode that wave pretty much until retirement probably. So I feel very loyal about that. However, I was more worried about myself and the growth that I could have. So for starters, I would say, take control of your life. Like, what do you really want to do? Take control of it. I'm really good at sales. Like, I love sales. I don't think that I was like the number one salesman at Salesforce by any means, but I did enjoy talking to customers and I felt a lot of peace with it. But for me, time is so important on earth. And I feel like you have so much time to make a name for yourself and to hustle and to climb to your goals. Why waste it doing something that you're good at versus something that you love? And I think that I had been trained so much to be good at sales and to want to love sales. But in reality, I loved marketing. I more so loved the conversations I was having with customers about the marketing piece than to get them to sign the contract. So yeah, I learned a lot. I think taking control is the biggest piece, and really just aligning with what you want to do. I mean, it's risky. I'm very young. I feel like I'm also getting very old, but I think that you have to make those decisions fast and be intentional with what you want to do. Like, my wife was working at a company before, and she made a jump about the same time as I did, which was a very gutsy move for both of us. But we both are extremely happy now because we're doing what we love. And I think that work has become easy. It's become something that I want to wake up and do and go to sleep doing. So,
yeah. I mean, taking ownership is so important as it relates to your professional career. And I heard you say something in the previous question about how people probably internally were criticizing you, but in life, people will internally and externally criticize you. What would you say to someone like that? Because there's a lot of people who are just scared of criticism. What would you tell that person who's like, they're going to think I'm an idiot for making this move? What would you tell them?
Yeah, I'm a big proponent of the long-term plan, the long-term game. So
yes,
I think, 30, 40 years in the future, where do I want to be? And I have an idea of where I'll be. And it's my top secret plan, so I won't share too much, but I have this idea of who I want to be and what I want to represent and what I want to stand for as a business person, as a father, as a husband. So I think there's a lot of goals that I have for myself. These small steps that I'm taking will impact that journey, but me stepping to a law firm doesn't prove or disprove my success as a business person. So I think long-term, I'm going to win, and I have no doubt about it. And I have a lot of goals for what I want to do in marketing. Short-term, you may take steps that are questioned or weird, but I've been at two different companies before, and I had a lot of relationships there, and that time comes and goes real quick. College has come and
Yep.
gone real quick, and I made decisions then that have set me up. So I highly recommend thinking long term, and that, sometimes you're gonna make decisions that may be weird. People thought I was crazy. I had a great salary and stuff, like I was gonna leave and be offset, but I already feel like I'm having so much success, and I know that this is just the tip of the iceberg. So long term game.
Absolutely. Now, who's a mentor of yours? Because I know a lot of successful people always attribute a mentor in their life to taking them to the next level, or even a series of mentors. Who's someone who's mentored you, and what was the professional advice that they gave you that really helped elevate you to the next level in your career?
Well, I've had a lot. I've definitely had a lot of mentors. I don't think there's definitely one. My coach in high school was important. You and Seth have been great mentors for me, as a rising professional and somebody who's taking ownership of things. I think I've had mentors in college. I had a few professors that I really gravitated towards. There was one lady who really stuck out to me. I call her lady. That sounds so weird. But her name is Allison Jones, and I will always remember her. I still try and stay in touch with her. Her and her husband, Patrice, are just two incredible people.
Wow.
And I was impacted by them, my last job out of college and my first job in the real world at Pearson. They were there as mentors for me at Pearson and in college, and they've led me to some pretty great realizations of myself, of what I'm good at, what I'm talented at, and what I see clearly at. But Allison was such a great person about being intentional. And I think the word intent is such a hard word to grasp. We all want to be intentional with our friendships, with our business, with everything. And if you're balancing a multi-million-dollar firm, you're balancing a relationship at home, you're balancing all these different things you're doing, all the places that you're allocated as a person, it's very tough. But I think you can find out a lot about yourself and how you can be successful by just being intentional with the things you want to be intentional with. Your health,
Right.
your wealth. I think my relationship, my wife, but you have to be intentional. And Allison Jones, I call her Allison Jones because she calls me Corey Geary all the time, but she's just an incredible leader. And I think she leads with not only her being in front of people and her actions and her words, but even on a one-to-one basis, she'll sit down and give you true advice, eye to eye. Here's what I think. When I made my jump from Pearson to Salesforce, I was scared, and she led me through that. And the advice that her and Patrice gave me were super impactful to me. So still to this day, I think of them as who I want to embody as a person. What would I stand for? What's outside of business for me? What's at the top of the business world for me? So just incredible people. And I think intentionalism is the big word.
Well, hopefully you've told her this, and if not, you'll have a video clip that you could share with her, because I think that's, as a leader and someone who enjoys mentoring people, sometimes there's not a lot of recognition in that, and I can just tell you from being on the other end of that would go a long way if she knew that. So now, as it pertains to a person who wants to elevate themselves today, so they're not where they need to be, maybe they don't know their passion. You said the word intentionality. Maybe that's the answer to this question. But what can a person do today to elevate their success, not just short term, but also long term? Because I think long term thinking is crucial to success. What can a person do today to elevate themselves?
Yeah, I think as a marketer, I'm advising against the marketing that I put out. But as a marketer, I'm fighting for people's time. And I'm going to do anything to steal their time from them, because that's business, and that's what we want to do. How do we capture their attention? How do I get them to be intentional with our brand? But I think if you think about it from a consumer standpoint, you have Netflix at home, you have radio, you have your cars, your relationships, friends, weekends. Your time is very limited, very, very limited. And how intentional you are with your time as an entrepreneur or as a business person means a lot. When I come home, if I get home at 6 or 7 p.m., I really only have 3 to 4 hours to myself, but I also have to share that time with my wife, my dog, calling my family. There's a lot of things that I have to work on personally as well. I have a yard to cut and a lot of different things that come in the way, but I have to be intentional with it. Sometimes it takes me staying up late or waking up early, but being intentional with my time is something I always fight for. And one of the things that you can do very easily is be intentional with your brand. Fix your social media brand, fix your LinkedIn brand, your resume. Make sure your brand, what you wear, how you talk, how you act, your personal brand is the quickest thing you can do to start making success for yourself. Being intentional with yourself. What do I want to look like? You know,
Yeah.
up till about 2 years ago, I didn't really have many suits, and I wanted to be like a lot of leaders in my company, and suits are quite expensive, you know, but
Yeah.
I made it a goal for myself that my brand, I needed to be in a sports coat or a jacket every day to be a little more clean cut. I walked around in just button ups all the time, and this is a different look. Button up to jacket
Right.
changes your brand. So yeah, being intentional with yourself,
Absolutely.
intention with time is huge.
You know, it's interesting because you talk about personal brand, not just in the context of what people see online and what people see on your resume, but also what people see day to day, right? I mean, I don't think people focus enough on what is being seen on the day to day when people see you walking to the store or walking, because you never know who you're going to meet, right?
Right.
And if you're not intentional about it and you decide to dress sloppy one day and show up to the mall, you may miss out on the opportunity to meet that person who could change your life. And I think it's so important to do that on a personal brand. So if you don't know your passion, if you don't know what you want to do in life, just be intentional about you. Make your personal brand the best that it can possibly be. So, well, thank you so much, Corey, for being here. It's been a real treat. And we've been talking to Corey Geary, Director of Marketing at Bader Scott Injury Lawyers and a marketing consultant for 8-figure firm who helps law firms develop the customer journey that they need to be successful in this relational world. Corey, where can people find you if they want more information about marketing, more information about the customer journey?
Yeah, well, for starters, you can find me on Instagram. My personal brand I locked up years ago at Corey Geary. So CoreyGeary. Instagram is definitely my place. I think it's where you can find out the most personal things about me and my life. It's a very native way of marketing myself. And then I love LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn is huge for professionals. So mine's the LinkedIn URL and then Corey Geary. So looking forward to connect with anybody.
Awesome stuff. So you can find him on Instagram and LinkedIn. Thanks again, Corey, for being here. And be sure to subscribe for more episodes on the Guts and Glory Show.
You've been listening to the Guts and Glory Show with Luis Scott. If you enjoyed the show, be sure to share. For more information on this episode, please see the show notes at www.gutsandgloryshow.com. And join us next time as we talk to another leader in business that had the guts to overcome all odds for the glory of success.